Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak are two cheeks of the same backside.
And I've got to tell you that my hatred for Margaret Thatcher has not dimmed, not by a flicker.
It was by no means the single biggest slaughter in the Israel-Palestine chapter.
So Jews don't have to be on the side of apartheid.
You killed a million people in Iraq.
I'm asking you why you're so selective about civilian people being killed. We killed 10,000 civilians in liberating Mosul from ISIS. Did you oppose it? Did you oppose it?
I call out the Israel flag every time I see it.
Keir Starmer, this is for Gaza. You have paid and you will pay a high price for the role that you have played in enabling, encouraging, and covering for the catastrophe presently going on in occupied Palestine in the Gaza Strip.
And I've got to tell you that my hatred for Margaret Thatcher has not dimmed, not by a flicker. That, well, we've got things just as bad now under Theresa May, and I had to say, if you think that, you weren't there. Margaret Thatcher destroyed this country, destroyed everything that was good about this country, destroyed our coal industry, our steel industry, our automotive industry, our railway workshop industry, our shipbuilding industry. She systematically dismantled Britain, unshackled it from the floor, flooded its deep mines with 1,000 years of coal within, leaving us utterly dependent on foreign sources of energy thereafter. She sowed discord and hatred in the country, divisions which have never healed.
But it is an issue that separates the sheep from the goats, the wheat from the chaff. I personally believe that when history comes to be written, just as it was written over the Holocaust in the late 30s and 40s, those that turned their faces away from mass slaughter, even though they must have known that it was going on, have not emerged well from history. And I think the same will be true over this.
When Hamas embed themselves amongst civilians, as they do...
Well, where else could they embed themselves?
It's
a prison camp. It was by no means the single biggest slaughter in the Israel-Palestine chapter.
In one day?
In one day. In fact, in 5 hours, with Sharon on the roof shining a searchlight into the Sabra and Shatila camps in Beirut, 3,850 Palestinian women and children. There were only women and children because the men had all agreed to sail away to Tunisia as part of an American brokered deal. Now, younger viewers will not remember Sabra and Shatila, but those two names are burned in the minds of those older and who care about it. So that's triple the actual death toll on October the 7th.
Well, nearly 7,000 more were wounded on October the 7th.
Yeah, but the fact that you thought, I mean, disrespectfully, that this was the biggest single day of slaughter is part of the problem. The lives, the blood of Palestinians is oftentimes by commentators and politicians regarded as less valuable than the blood of Israel. I absolutely condemn that. I also condemn the taking of women and children as hostages, whether they're taken by the Israeli government, and there are 9,000 hostages in Israeli dungeons that are untried, not even charged, They're just held there as hostages. If you keep 2.3 million people in a cage, they're going to try and break out. So there's all kinds of concomitant should have knowns in this story. They should have known when they occupied Palestinian land, drove hundreds of thousands of them out, never to return, that those people would have children and they would have children, and enmity, bitterness, and a desire for revenge would exist forever. And so it has. Did we discover that ourselves in our own country when we interned, without trial, thousands of Roman Catholics in the north of Ireland? We guaranteed the struggle of the Irish Republican Army for decades afterwards. We made a university for them behind the wire. This kind of failure to address legitimate grievances of people can only generate future hatred.
See,
But I'm, Jackie, in no doubt at all about your responsibility in this. And 2 million of us on the streets of London told you so at the time. And for you now to try and wash your hands of your share of the responsibility, I'm afraid that's a spot that will not out. All the perfumes of Arabia will not expunge that spot.
And all of your poetry, George, doesn't prevent people from being murdered and massacred in Iraq and Syria at the moment. I'm not washing my hands of what happened in the past.
You killed a million people in Iraq.
That is a separate...
You killed 1 million people in Iraq. It's incredible that you have the brass neck to be sitting here now urging another Iraq war
George,
after
if
what
I was
you've already
still in
done.
Parliament, I would be there tomorrow, living up to my responsibility to answer the call of the Iraqi government and people to help to support them. And the fact that you aren't is something that you will have to live with.
Let me ask a final question to you, George. If not bombing, if not intervention, how do we deal with this cancer?
Give Iraq the weapons that it's already paid for but haven't been delivered. Strengthen the Peshmerga. Strengthen the governments of Iraq and Syria, and ask Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Iran to fight this battle. It's their battle, not ours.
George Galloway, the fiery British politician, does not hold back in expressing his opinions as a representative of the Workers' Party of Britain, which he founded in 2019. He is stridently pro-Palestinian and has long been a thorn in the side of the British political establishment. He has loudly opposed the Iraq War and attributes much of his point of view on the Palestinian and Arab causes to his visit in Beirut in 1977. A close friend to the late Yasser Arafat, he has definitely ruffled some feathers by befriending people of the likes of Saddam Hussein and other controversial mainstream media figures. However you may feel about George Galloway, we must admire that he is not afraid to go against the grain and speak for what he believes is right. That does take some courage in today's cancel culture.